Welcome to Planning and Beyond, the show where financial planning meets human understanding. I'm your host, Ashley Kwame, and today I'm joined by Jeremy Keil, CFP, financial advisor, and an author, new author of the book Retire Today. Jeremy, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here.
So am I. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, you and I have known each other for a little while now. Our paths have crossed, being in the speaking community, in the same coaching cohort with Deirdre Van Nest. So we've come to know each other here for the last little bit. And one of the things that I've come to appreciate about you and learning about you is not that you're a great advisor and not that you don't put out great content for your clients, but that you use a model that is near and dear to my heart, motivational interviewing. And so, hearing that and knowing that about you, I am so glad that you're here to share your insights, your wisdom on not just what is motivational interviewing, like from a theoretical standpoint, but what does it look like as a financial advisor using it with clients? What is the client response? So I am so glad that you are here and so that we can have this conversation today. Before we jump in though, can you just share with everyone, I know who you are, but can you just maybe share a little bit more context, give a little bit more depth to who you are and who you work with, maybe client wise? Yeah, I'll turn it over to you.
There you go. My name is Jeremy Keil. I've been a financial advisor for over 2 decades now, and I realized right away that I love solving the retirement planning puzzle. So I help people get ready for retirement and make that retirement transition. I've developed a process that I call your retirement master plan, where I take people through the 5 steps I think they need to go through to properly retire, which is what I wrote my book about. It's called Retire Today, Create Your Retirement Master Plan in 5 Simple Steps. And that's what I like to do, help people get ready for retirement, feel better about retirement, and hopefully they'll learn a little bit more about their finances in the way.
Yeah, I love that. So tell me then, okay, how did you become interested in motivational interviewing? Because it's not widely known. Well, just in general, I mean, mostly in the mental health, the
hmm
therapy space. It's definitely not well known in the financial planning space. So how did you stumble upon it? What drew you to it?
Yeah, so two things. One is that you and I have something in common. You're a psychologist married to a financial planner. I'm a financial planner married to a psychology major. My wife is an elementary school counselor.
I
And
love
so
that.
I was sharing with her one day how I go to all these conferences. And it's like every conference you go to, every speaker gets up from stage and says, the key to success is asking great questions. And then they stop. I'm like, well, how do you ask great questions? And sometimes they'll give you one or two questions, like these are the magic words, like your Harry Potter. Like, this is the magic words, the spell to get people to say yes to you. I'm like, no, how do you ask great questions? So I think I was sharing this frustration with my wife one day. She said, sounds like you need motivational interviewing. And I'm like, what is that? So she told me a little bit about motivational interviewing. Immediately thought it was great. This is how you ask great questions. It's a framework. It's a style of how you approach conversations. I like to say that motivational interviewing is a guided conversation about change. And what is financial planning? The clients showed up to your door saying, I want to make a change somehow. Guide me through it. Let's have a conversation. Like that's what it is. So right away, I took the online course, I read the book, taken in-person and Zoom trainings. Everyone on my team, I have them go through the trainings on motivational interviewing, and it's just it's great to finally have a framework of how do we guide people through these discussions about big life changes.
Yeah, I think that's such a fantastic just definition, like high level, right? Is that it is, a style, a framework that helps guide conversationally, right, clients
hmm
towards change. So I love that. I think that is so, so brilliant. So, okay, you kind of more or less, right, stumbled upon it with the help of your lovely wife
Indeed, I did.
there. I love it when our spouses can, just be helpful in that way. Clayton, years ago, when I was asking about couples interventions, when I kind of first started on this path, he was not helpful. So he was like, I have no idea how to help you. You're on your own. So I'm glad for you. Like your wife was helpful. Clayton's helpful in other ways, but not that way in particular. So I think that that is so wonderful. Okay. So you mentioned that you have gone through a lot of the training there and have started to integrate it into the way in which you work with clients. So can we just start like, maybe kind of at that initial starting place of you took the trainings, you were learning about it. How did you go about starting to integrate motivational interviewing in this framework into working with clients? Where did you start? Like, what did it look like? Can you paint us a picture?
Yeah. So I'm going to say that I came to it wondering, how do I ask great questions? I learned one way that you ask great questions is you ask less questions. And so here's an acronym for you. They got acronyms outside of the financial world, but the acronym in motivational interviewing is OARS, OARS, for open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. Now, those are four things you're supposed to be doing, and only one of them involves a question, and it's an open-ended question. So that's part of it, is this thinking through, okay, if we're trying to do, I go to these in my motivational interviewing skills trainings, and people are talking about intakes. Like in the health world, everyone's got an intake. I'm like, oh, that's like a connect meeting. So your connect meeting, your intake, right? People are talking about that. Just imagine if you went to the doctor or anybody and they just said, what is this? Why is this? What is this? Why is this? How? Like they just go at you. That's not an interview. That's an interrogation.
Yeah.
And that's not a conversation, right? So part of the key of having great questions is asking less questions and make them open-ended questions. Affirmations, reflections, summaries are other ways that you can communicate that you know what the other person is talking about, or you're trying to understand what they're talking about without just peppering them over and over again with all these questions. So remember OARS. We'll see if we get other acronyms today, but that's the one. Open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. And you should have less questions and more statements. That'll be a better conversation.
Yeah, I found that clinically, like, you know, I would have clients come in, and particularly couples, and the more often than not, it was the male partner. And their assumption was that I was going to fire off like a line of questions. And I remember one in particular at the end of our first session, I usually would do some kind of reflection of like, hey, like, how was the last
Mm-hmm.
50 minutes? Like, what was that like for you? Kind of just walking back through. And I remember him saying, I came in here and I thought that this was going to be like an interrogation. I
Mm-hmm.
thought you were just going to fire questions and you didn't. And I was really surprised and relieved. And so, like, that's always stuck with me, to your point of, questions, right? We should not be firing them off like we're interrogating the person. And not that we ever intend to do that, but sometimes asking too many questions, right? As you mentioned, sometimes the bet is to ask less, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
better approach. And I love the OARS acronym. I think that it's a fantastic framework to follow from just a conversation standpoint there. So you kind of started, if I'm hearing you correctly, started with the OARS, like implementing OARS. Like, where did you start? Was it in that like initial kind of connect, prospect, intake, quote unquote, intake meeting? Did you just start doing it out the gate with like all clients? Like, what was your strategy for beginning to implement it?
Yeah, one part is that it's a framework. It's just a new way for you to be approaching conversations to begin with. So, this speaking of my wife, I came back from a motivational interviewing seminar, and she said, like, "Now you're asking opening questions. Like now you're reflecting to me." So, like it just was coming off right. It just was coming out. She can tell when I've been doing some trainings because I've got a
I
better
love that.
conversation. She's like, "Well, now you're a good listener." But that's all right. So it's just how you go about your conversation with everybody. And it does, though, feel more natural to start with the connect meeting because that's your first interaction with them. And that's your probably first time where they're showing up at your door asking to make a change. And that's what this is about. And that change might be changing their advisor. I mean, that's probably a big part of it. They're asking you to make some sort of change, whatever it is. And so that's the perfect time to start practicing these skills, getting used to these skills. It just seems like there's more opportunities there where if somebody walks into your office or you click on the Zoom, you say, tell me what brought you here today, right? So let's just let them open up. That's an open-ended question. That's an open-ended statement, really. Another question I like to ask is, well, what about right now made you start looking? Like, why did they wake up yesterday and say, I need a book with a financial advisor? Because that's often a thing where they say, well, I need to get my affairs in order. Well, what about right now? Well, they'll tell you, oh, I got this pension paperwork. It's due in 30 days. Or I'm turning 62 and my dad died at 62. So I'd like to retire soon. Like there's a lot of things that'll there's a trigger. There's always a trigger. So I think that's part of it, is finding out what brought you here today and what about right now? What brought you here, like right now, today specifically? And you'll learn a whole lot, and they'll get talking and they'll start telling you exactly what they want. And then your job is to help them get what they want, as well as what
Yeah.
they need. They need a little bit too, is maybe different than what they want.
Yeah, for sure. I find that those early meetings are when we're trying out new skills, particularly conversation, like communication skills, new relationships, those connect, those prospect meetings, they're almost the easiest ones because the client doesn't know you. They
Hmm.
have nothing to compare, your style or approach
Right.
to, right? They don't know. I know that when I've gone through, trainings and wanted to come back and implement different techniques, the new clients, right? I'm like, oh, I feel a little easier. It feels a little bit better. It feels a little easier to try this out with clients where
Hmm.
I don't have an established relationship. Can you maybe tell me, like, how was it for you? Maybe it wasn't difficult or scary or hard, but how was it for you starting to implement this with current clients where maybe you weren't using all of the OARS? Maybe you weren't. I'm sure you probably were a little and you just didn't realize it because I think that you were probably really, really great conversationally. But how is it for you using it with your existing clients when you started learning this?
Yeah, the biggest thing or change I did with existing clients, and I think I already did this a little bit, was the first question on any agenda is, what are your questions? Which is important. But I think beforehand, it's like, what are your questions? These are my 5 questions. Awesome. I'll get to them at the end. Like, wait a second. They give you, say, what are your questions? And they'll say, these are the 3 things I want to go through. And then ask them, where would you like to start? So I think that right there was helpful. There was a particular client of mine a few years back where he came in, his investments are a mess. He wanted to retire. He had no idea how he could do any of this stuff. And he really wanted to take care of this small life insurance policy as well. And I'm like, this is the least of his problems. And I asked him, what's on your mind? And he said, well, I got to take care of this life insurance policy, and I got to like figure out my investments in retiring. Like, awesome. Let me help you with everything else besides that life insurance policy. Like, we'll get to that. I kept saying we'll get to that because it was very objectively not a priority. Like, it's like you're talking about this $10,000 life insurance policy. You have $2 million. That's all a mess. And you don't know how to sign up for Social Security, Medicare, how much money you can live on. Like, clearly it doesn't matter, right? No, it matters. It mattered to him. And a year later, he moved his investments out because I didn't take care of the life insurance policy, which was always on my agenda. Like, if we get to this, but me not paying attention to what he said was top of his mind, as irrational as it was top of his mind. And it probably delayed me helping him out with the things that objectively mattered more because he couldn't get that out of his mind. And so if I had just asked him before I took motivational interviewing, after I met this person and after he left, if I had said, where do you want to start? If he had said, if I had just asked him that, where do you want to start? I want to start here. Great. Let's start there. Because that's what it's going to take to move on to the other things, is to go through what's first in their mind. So I've
Well, that's
learned
a
that
great
lesson.
story. Yeah, I think that's a great story. And I'm sure that, for people who are listening, maybe it hasn't resulted in a client leaving, but maybe it has resulted in just a rupture in the relationship that maybe they're not aware of. But I think that that's such a great story to highlight. Sometimes what we think is a priority
Hmm.
or what we think matters, it might be different. And as you said, like maybe it's not entirely rational or like the
Hmm.
logical place to start. But if that's what's important to the client, then, our role in being able to help with that and, attend to that is important. It's important and it matters and it speaks meaning there. So implementing with existing clients, right? Really some of the change was just on the upfront piece, like conversationally. And it sounds like maybe once you kind of got going, then it was, I don't know, smooth sailing. Did you those early kind of days, were there any hiccups that you noticed or difficulties, whether it was with prospects or just existing clients?
I'd say there's no difficulties because I went through and did the training, right? So I think anyone, and here's a little secret for the financial advisors out there, in the world of healthcare and mental health, things are a lot less expensive than in the world of finance, right?
Yeah, they are.
If someone was supposed to say, like, let me do a financial training on motivational interview, 2 days, I'm guessing $997, right? That would be my price point for go teach people for 2 days how to do motivational interviewing. Go look online. It's probably $249. In the world of mental health, you've got a nice arbitrage there for your finance
Yeah,
folks.
we have our issue. We have some issues with money. Let's just be
Yeah,
honest, the
so there
mental
you go.
health side of things. And
Yeah,
we're not doing ourselves favor by lowering the cost of trainings.
yeah, that's exactly it. So as a financial advisor, go out and spend 2 days with the mental health professionals that are teaching motivational interviewing. You'll get 2 days worth of training. You'll practice it. You'll be very, very confident when you go back into the field of talking to your clients. And so I'd say for me, there was no, it wasn't uncomfortable because I just learned it and I trained on it. I was practicing it with others for 2 whole days. And so you just go back and talk to your clients, and that's how you talk to them now. You have the open-ended questions, and no one's gonna be mad. Like, you just affirmed me, right? You summarized what I said. No one's gonna be mad at you, right? Like, you're asking me all about me now with open-ended questions. Come on. So you're gonna be fine. There's nothing to worry about. You just go out to get the cheap training. That's even better from the mental health professionals. It's motivationalinterviewing.org is the motivational interviewing network of trainers. And there's online, in person, all kinds of classes out there. I'd say go out and start with the basic motivational interviewing, and you'll be off to the races, giving your clients a much better experience. Part of motivational interviewing is empowerment. Like, people are there, not that people don't want to walk into your office and then walk out saying, wow, I learned nothing, but boy, is that person smart. Like, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for, wow, I really learned something and I feel so much better about the money decisions I made. Boy, is that person smart, right? And you empower them up and they like you better. I mean, that's a good thing in the financial advisor world, and it's a better thing for the clients to be more empowered and feel more in control of their destiny, really.
Yeah. Clients don't remember what you say, but they do remember how you make them
Yep.
feel.
Oh yeah.
Quote
Yep.
that, it's floating around out there, right? A lot. And it's
Mm-hmm.
true. I don't remember a lot of the things that, some of the important people in my life, but I do remember how people make me feel
Right.
positively and negatively. So, okay, Jeremy, one of the things that I hear a lot are questions that sometimes I get or even pushback. And I'm curious how you've handled this or just kind of what you would say
Mm-hmm.
is that I'll have advisors who kind of struggle with this balance of I want to engage in deeper conversations, but like how do I do this and also blend the technical side? Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we just have to, it has to be like technically focused. Like we have to walk through numbers and like talk strategy, like in all of this. And sometimes there may just not be time to sit here and have like a 45-minute, like
Mm-hmm.
open-ended like conversation. How do you balance that between going through like the OARS, but also like the technical side of things?
I mean, two parts. It's a guided conversation. Like, you are in charge. You are the guide. They showed up for you to guide them through it. So don't think if you ask one open-ended question, they're just gonna, blather for an hour, right? That's just not gonna happen. And if it does start happening, well, start using some of the other skills like affirmations, reflections, and summaries. You are the guide. If they're kind of going on, you can say something like, "You've put a lot of thought into this. I see you've done this, and that. Would you mind if we take a look at this other area? Or I think this relates exactly to one of my points on our agenda. Would you mind if I start going through that?" So you're using a summary to both let them know, okay, I understand exactly what you're looking at, and you're also using it to kind of guide them over towards that technical piece. But you also ask permission, because if they say no, well, then you don't go there. But they'll probably say yes. Oh yeah, that's great. Thanks for keeping me on track, right? So you can use those reflections and summaries, I think, to kind of guide it and shorten some things that need to be shortened. But don't cut them off if they're crying about something, right? There's certain times, but most of the time you're gonna be good where you can just kind of summarize them through to the next thing. And that permission part makes a lot of sense of when you want to make sure that they're kind of tracking with you. And if you say, do you mind if I do this thing? Do you mind if we take a look at the screen and see how this fits into your picture? Right. And when they say yes, they're going to be way more engaged. And you're also going to know, okay, yeah, they're in it right now. Like, they're with me towards this technical piece. That's my
I
thought.
love those transitions that you just gave examples of because I think sometimes advisors can be reluctant to really like take charge and like own the meeting, and use transitions like, okay, I'm going to let you process here and then I'm going to, make this connection like back to the plan, and from a permission or willingness
Hmm.
standpoint, actively like really engage. What I have learned is that good financial planning meetings are incredibly active. Now, the guide, if you will, the practitioner, right, the advisor, they have to play an active role. And that doesn't mean that you have to be the one that is talking the most,
Hmm.
but it does mean that you have to really own the meeting
Yep.
and be able to, as you said, guide. I know that comes from the MI world, but really guide that conversation strategically, right? To where, yes, we're processing, and yes, we're building, some trust equity here, but we're also attuning to like the numbers and like the plan side to make sure like that comes, that's discussed as well.
Hmm.
So I love all of those transitions. I think that those are really fantastic examples of them. I'm curious to, we've talked a lot about like your side of the things, your side of the like relationship here. What have you noticed has been the client response since implementing MI, since going through these trainings? How have your clients responded?
Yeah. Before that, you just said the word "I'm curious." That phrase. That's a great phrase to start with. I'm curious is a great kind of starting a question. Or on the opposite end, where sometimes people are saying, "All right, I want to do this thing," and you're like, "You don't want to do that thing. That's a bad idea." And you could say, "I'm curious what led you to that conclusion." Right. So that's one, and then they'll tell you, and then you can say, "Well, thanks for sharing." Concerned though, what I've seen is this, and people don't want to be told they're wrong, but they do want to hear if you've got a concern, right? And so you could say that idea about cashing out your simple IRA and paying a 25% penalty is a horrible idea. You could say that, or you could say, I'm curious, what made you want to do this? And then they'll tell you. You say, well, I'm concerned about the tax penalty. Have you looked into that? Oh, I haven't looked into that, right? So don't tell them they're wrong. Express curiosity and concern on there. So you said the phrase, I'm curious. I thought it was perfect to talk about that.
I say it a
Oh
lot
yeah,
with the
that's definitely a therapy thing, I think. Yeah.
It's also a lot of practice. Now it just comes very
Hmm.
naturally
Yeah.
for me. And I don't, when you I'll say called me out on it, like I was like, oh, I did. Like I had
It's
not really
great.
realized it, but some of it is it just comes natural. And so, and saying that, my hope is that for those listening, starting something out new may not feel very natural, but over
Hmm.
time, right? Like I'm sure for you, like going through and walking through the OARS right now is it probably feels organic and it probably feels very natural, but you've been putting in a lot of practice in doing that. So
Yeah.
getting back to the client side,
Yes. How
what
do the
have you
clients feel about
noticed?
it?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
have you
Well, I'm going to give you
noticed?
the bad example beforehand and then the good
Okay.
example afterwards. So,
Okay.
I was at a Christmas party, and a friend of a friend, he's like, hey, you sell life insurance, right? Yeah, I can help you with that. Awesome. I just got married. We're having a kid. We need to buy life insurance. I said, great, I'll help you out. Just, give me a call on Monday. And so he gave me a call. I met with him and his wife. They talked about how they need life insurance. And I said, great, I think you need whatever the amount is, $1 million. And they said, yeah, that sounds good. I said, I'll send you the applications. And so I sent them the applications, and then they didn't sign, and then they didn't sign, and they didn't sign. And I called them up and I said, hey, I sent you the applications. You haven't signed it yet. They're like, yeah, we're just going to go somewhere else. Like, I mean, honestly, because I like you, I just want to tell you, I just felt like you're really pushy. Like, like they asked me to buy life insurance. And I said, sure, here you go. And I sent them the applications. And that felt pushy because I didn't go through and affirm and reflect and summarize. And then I didn't ask them permission. Would it be all right if I sent you the applications? I mean, that would, if they had said no, well, then we would have figured it out. And they probably would have said yes. But I told them I'm going to send them these life insurance applications instead of asking them permission. So that would have been a better outcome for them. Hopefully they bought life insurance. I don't know if they did. I mean, they might not have it right now. And they're still all living, but they could be highly unprotected with their life insurance needs because I didn't bother to ask them permission. So that's the negative side, kind of the warning that
Can
you
we
ought to
just pause? I
go
just want
for
to
it.
pause there because I think that story, that example, um, is a really great example of where, I hear advisors, they're like, well, but that's what I would do. send them the
What else do you do?
application. What else would I do? And the best of intentions, like
Mm-hmm.
the best of intentions. Maybe this story, maybe it wouldn't be or is not the case for every,
Mm-hmm.
advisor all the time, right? But I think thankfully the client shared that with you.
Yeah. It's, it's usually just ghost it totally and you get nothing out of it.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Like thankfully they shared that with you so that you just have some awareness there, some insight,
mm-hmm.
and even though I'm sure that was not really great to hear, and
It
I
helped.
don't even want to say that it was accurate, right? I don't even say that it was accurate, but at least from their worldview, like it felt
Mm-hmm.
that way. And so I think that this story highlights even more so the point we were talking about before about asking for permission. Like, would it be okay with you if I sent you this?
Mm-hmm.
Would you be willing? What would be your thoughts if I did this? Are you in a place where you're ready for me to send you an application, or do you need some time to just process? This would be the next step. Where do you feel like you are right now with being
Mm-hmm.
able to take that next step? There's a lot of questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can come before the action of, okay, I'll just send you the application, even if that's the outcome. So I think that's a fantastic story. And hopefully, maybe for those listening, if you find that, oh, yeah, I am that one, that the writing reflex, something that, we
Mm-hmm.
talk about and motivate, like I'm the one that just jumps to like fixing it or giving
Mm-hmm.
the solution, which makes total sense. Like,
They
from
asked
a
you for the
human
solution.
standpoint, yeah, like it makes total sense. But I think this highlights why sometimes just pausing and taking a moment to pause and ask a few, maybe more questions, or maybe just one more question
Mm-hmm.
can really lead to, hopefully maybe better outcomes there on the client side. Okay. So that's the bad story. Okay. Please tell me the good story now.
Yeah. So, got another client who thankfully I like just graduated from intermediate motivational interviewing. And then my next meeting was with this lady who is a widow, which means you get some life insurance. Also means you hang out with a bunch of other widow friends. Like you kind of get like this sisterhood going. And she knows that she's in a better financial situation than most of her other widowed friends because she had the life insurance and things like that. And I met her afterwards. So it wasn't because of me, right? There's just she came in from there. But her daughter is graduating high school and she wanted to take this big trip. And she was just having this guilt about basically using her dead husband's money to go on a tropical vacation. So a bit of like, I'm literally using the life force of my dead husband to go on vacation. And also I know that I'm somebody that can do this. And most of my friends probably can't that are in a similar situation. So she came to me and said, here's the thing. My daughter's graduating. Well, first off, I said, what other questions do you have? Right. So we talked about like all the financial stuff and what other questions do you have? She said, well, here's the deal is I want to go on this vacation. I just don't know if I should or not. And I could have just been a quick financial advisor, nerdy guy and said, well, how much does it cost? And let me plug it in the system. And yes, you can take it. Go ahead. Right. I could have given her the math answer, but she wasn't asking for the math answer. And so I said, I asked her, what makes you, kind of what's the debate? Like, what's your, what are you torn between? And so then she described to me, this is my dead husband's life insurance. My friends can't do this. And I just know, is it appropriate to spend, whatever, $10,000 on just a vacation? And tell me more about this vacation. And she was telling me about, well, it's where I went with my husband. And we had always said we wanted to bring our kids here. And we had talked for years that it was going to be their graduation gift. It was going to come here. And I just don't know if I should or not. And so I just kind of asked her questions and reflected about like, that's hard. It's got to be hard to go to this place that he won't be there. And I'm sure it's got to be, I don't know, even embarrassing to go talk with your friends at coffee about this great thing when you know that they can't. And yeah, it is hard, those things. And then at the end, I asked her, well, what would you like to do? And she looked at me and said, I'd like to go on that vacation. And so she came and said, yes, that's the financial answer because you can afford it. I think she should have said yes, but I didn't impose my values. I just asked her, what are these two feelings? That's a big thing in the world of motivational interviewing is ambivalence. Like you're stuck between two things. Like, I don't know which way to go. And so I kind of asked her about both things and that helped her talk it out and come to the conclusion that she wanted to go, she made the decision. She would have done it if I just said yes. Like, yeah, you should go. Like, she would have just followed what I said. I don't think she would have been as kind of emotionally excited about it though. And because she talked it out, she was emotionally excited about it. She went, she loved it. She's glad she went. And it was a better outcome, better client outcome because of talking through the different framework.
I think that's, I'm just kind of sitting with that story. I love it so much. And look, I think you're right. I think likely she would have maybe gone with your advice, but I can't help but wonder if she would have still experienced guilt or if she would have even enjoyed the vacation as much, right?
Yeah.
If you had just told her versus her coming to that decision on her own, right? And it, just kind of releases some of that emotional weight then for her, where hopefully she was able to enjoy it a little bit more than had you just told her to go. And she followed suit. So I think that's a wonderful way and such a classic example of, I think, sometimes where advisors get trapped or pulled into implementing like that writing reflex. Like, like they hear a problem from the client, and in their mind, it's okay, that's a problem they want me to answer. Technically, they want me to give them. And sometimes the problem that the client presents is really not for you to solve or to answer. Going back to being that guide, right? It's to just help guide them through asking questions and reflecting, giving affirmations and like summaries and letting them come to the answer on their own. Sometimes that is your role. Other times it is to give like the technical like answers and say, yes, you can afford this, right? Or no, you should not. Doing this would cause some issues with your plan. I think we should pause and not go that direction. I think that's such a wonderful example of conversation done well and done right. I know right sounds like a judgment, but conversation like done well.
It worked out well. Yeah.
It did. Yeah. Okay, Jeremy. So as we are sadly wrapping things up, you have shared a lot of fantastic just insight and wisdom, even resources there, which we will make sure that we link. What advice would you give to an advisor who, one, maybe they've heard of motivational interviewing, maybe this is the first time? If, for those of you out there, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that Derek Hagan came on at the beginning of the year. We'll link his episode to also explain motivational interviewing high level. But what would you say to advisors who are maybe considering, maybe they're in that contemplative state of change and considering looking into motivational interviewing? What would you say to them?
I'd say if you care about your clients making better decisions and you've got about $125, just sign up for a 3-hour course. You can find them on the motivationalinterviewing.org. Just go learn about it. I think you probably, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably care about your clients making better decisions, and you also probably have about $125. It's well worth it. It'll make hopefully even make your conversations at home even better, but it'll definitely make your client conversations better. And they'll walk out of it saying, your clients will walk out of your meeting with you saying, boy, he was really smart. And you said a whole lot less, right? I really like that person. And you just asked open-ended questions. You just had a better way to guide people through these conversations about money.
Yeah, I love that. That OARS approach does increase likability as well. I've experienced that on the personal side. Like when I'm engaged in a conversation, I'm like, man, I like this person so much more. Truthfully, that's how Clayton and I ended up together, is because he asked a lot of open-ended questions. And I was like, I'm gonna marry him. Done.
I like this guy.
That's how you get a wife. Yeah. That's how you get a wife.
It's smart.
He's a smart man. All right, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on. We'll make sure that we include those links as well as the link to your book as well. But where can people find you outside of maybe the links? Where do you hang out? Where can people reach out and contact you?
Yeah. And I'll just say about the book real quick. What's helped me is the fact that I've got a process to take people through. People do want to find someone that they like and trust, but also when you say, oh, this is the process that will take you through to retirement, like that's very trustworthy. And so whatever it is you're doing, whoever it is you help, think of what is the process that I can take people through, and then tell them that you have a process that you're taking them through and try to name it somehow. This is the Create Your Retirement Master Plan. This is the Ashley Kwame process. Oh, I want one of those. it's a helpful thing for them. It'll help you in your business. And that's what my book is showing people the process. So you're a financial advisor. You might not need to retire today, but if you want to see kind of how I did my process, help people guide them through retirement, you can check out Retire Today at Amazon, or it's my website, jeremykeil.com, JEREMYKEIL.com. We'll take you there. And you can find me on LinkedIn and YouTube as Mr. Retirement. I like to get some financial content out there as Mr. Retirement.
I love it. We'll make sure that we include all of that in the show notes. Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on today. It was such a fun conversation. And thank you to all of you for tuning in and allowing Jeremy and I into your ears and into your mind. If you found today's episode valuable, I would love to stay connected. You can follow me on LinkedIn at Ashley Kwame. I don't think that there's many Ashley Kwames on LinkedIn, so you can find me. I'm the one that works in the finance space. You can also follow us on YouTube now, where we are putting out short form and long form videos. You can follow us there. And you can also sign up and subscribe to our monthly newsletter at www.beyondthefp.com, where we share insights and resources around strategies that you can implement into your practice. But most importantly, don't forget to follow the show, because then you get notifications about new episodes like this one that come out every other week. And remember, most importantly, as you go out into your week, into your month, into your year, into all of your interactions with clients, remember that finances don't have feelings, but your clients do. Until next time, keep growing, keep planning, and keep going beyond.